My name is Bryn Perry. I am a first-generation tenant farmer here in Pembrokeshire, West Wales, and I am a sheep dairy farmer and also run a small herd of alpacas. So as part of the Agri Academy 2021 and 2020, we were lucky enough to go to the Basque region of Spain to visit several farms there to look at how they differ or are similar to agriculture in Wales. What surprised me a lot was the landscape and the similarities to Welsh hills and the mountains of Wales. The particular region we were in had a lot of mountainous areas and it was very green for the time of year. So that was quite surprising to see how similar, not just the landscape, but the climate was as well, and how we can bring some of the techniques that they've got there because of that climate back here and implement it here. Day one was a trip to a dairy farm, not too far away from the airport. Really interesting, it was a robotic dairy farm, so they had 2 Lely robots. Very similar setup to some of the farms you would see here in West Wales. And it was great to see that and see what they were doing. A lot of automation, a lot of making life easy, but it was interesting to speak to them about the issues they face are exactly the same as us. Land close to the farm is often very difficult to find. Labour is often an issue, and they do discuss the fact that if you wanted to get into cow dairy in Spain now, it would be very difficult to get entry, mainly due to cost. So they had 2 Lely robots, so all the cows are housed all year round, but then they are able to access the robots at any time they want. So it was quite interesting to see that set up there and how similar it is. You could have transposed that straight in Wales and you would believe that you were in Wales now. Great use of technology, feed pushers. Interesting to see some of the equipment they had. They obviously could spend a lot of money on equipment, but it was highly subsidised there. And the cows were very high yielding, sort of Holsteins imported from other countries really, but they had great genetics and were making the most of it really. I can definitely see farming moving forwards using technology. I think we've got to integrate technology into agriculture as we go, not just for efficiencies, but to make life easier. I think being able to increase work-life balance with agriculture and not having to work 70, 80-hour weeks. If we can make technology work for us, then why not use it? And it was great to see that being fully implemented there in Spain. So it was a great trip to see. Lovely lady that ran it, and we got to try some of her soft cheese as well, which was delicious. The morning of day 2, we went to a wave farm, or a wave generation plant. That was really interesting, the first of its kind in Europe, and I believe in the world at the time. Basically that worked by where the waves channeled into tunnels built under the dam or under the breakwater. It would then force the air pressure up and drive the turbines above, which made a really interesting noise. It was almost a bit spooky, the noise it had, and they had issues when storms came through about the noise. Definitely some issues around it in terms of I don't think it was the most efficient thing, and they were quite honest about that. But after that, it was more about looking at how they can increase what they were doing, increase the efficiencies and make it work for other sites. So that was really interesting and a great chance to see something different and looking at regenerative power. After going to the wave generation plant, we took a trip to a local vineyard where they produce region-specific wine. So there was a lot of criteria around that, a lot of strict criteria they had to meet in terms of when they picked the vines. The vines were picked by hand all the time, and they had to be processed at certain periods as well. So very strict around the criteria, but there was a white grape run by a cooperative of people who had bought it from somebody else. A lot of stainless steel, it was very impressive, and some delicious wine out of it, and we were lucky enough to sit down and have lunch with the owners and ask them questions about the difficulties and challenges of running a vineyard in Basque region. After the vineyard, we were lucky enough to visit a brand new poultry unit really. They'd only been going 12 months. For me, it was nice because it was someone from a non-agriculture background and had managed to get himself involved into agriculture and decided that poultry is what he wanted to do. Part of the system there in the Basque region was that government will basically subsidise any new entrant or young farmer getting in. So they were subsidised 50% of your startup costs, which when talking to your bank manager basically acted as a deposit on any finance you wanted to get. So it was really handy for them, and it was something interesting to see that how they're promoting new entrants into farming by providing that financial support to them to get them going. So this guy had set up a really nice little poultry unit, unfortunately without chickens in at the time because he was on a transition period, on a breakdown period, but very much supportive, all run under a cooperative, which seems to be a strong pattern there in the Basque region, and very much supported to get into agriculture and sort of drive forward what he wants to do instead of working as an engineer as he previously did. Yeah, so that was very similar to what I did. I've come from a completely non-agriculture background. I come from a business and franchising perspective, and decided that I'd had enough of sitting at the desk 9 to 5 and wanted to do something different with my life and be outside and work outdoors. So it was nice to see someone there that had done a similar path, albeit he was slightly later on in life, and see the support that he got there. And it did make me think about, maybe there are options for supporting new entrants into agriculture. I think it's an issue we are facing more and more at the moment, in terms of we have an ageing population of farmers in Wales. There's no getting around that. So encouraging young talent and new talent into the industry is going to become a really big part of what we do in the future. On day 3, we visited something that I was really keen to do, which was visit a sheep dairy farm. Sheep dairying in the Basque region is very popular, and it has been around there for a long time. They have provincially or nationally recognised cheeses there that are specific to that region. So I was really keen to go and see just the native breed, which is the llaeth, and see what they were doing differently here, or how they were doing things differently, and maybe things that we could bring back here to Wales. So for me, a particular interest. So the farmer there was very much running a traditional style farm. His family had been farming sheep dairy for a long time, and he was trying to maintain that and push that through as much as possible. Very much the diversification of his farm at this point. He relied very heavily on tourism and people coming to the bread and breakfast that he ran, but at the same time he wanted to keep going with the tradition that his parents had done and his grandparents had done. There was photos hanging around of his grandparents up in the hills milking a sheep by hand and making the cheeses 4 or 5 kilograms at a time. So he was very much trying to keep that in check, but at the same time bring in some modern technology to improve that and make things a bit more efficient. He made cheese every other day in a small dairy on farm. Very much a simple process. He brought some technology in, but a lot of it was done as per all good cheese making by touch and feel. Very highly regulated. He was restricted to how much cheese he could make each time, but it was nice to see a proper authentic cheese being made using very simple processes and resulting in very tasty, delicious product. It was really interesting to see their native breed, which is the llaeth, and find out more about them. Something we're trying to do here with our breed is to look at crossing them with something to increase hardiness and their ability to stay out more rather than be housed. Something we've looked at is the llaeth breed, or the equivalent across the border in France, the Manèche. So for me to go and see them in their native land and speak to the farmer about that was really interesting. Some things that maybe I wasn't expecting in terms of traits that we wanted to bring back here to Wales, but a lot of it was very positive, and it was a good chance to sort of see more about it and learn more about it as we go then, really. It was great to see how he integrated not just the sheep dairy, but the tourism side of things. So by enabling tourists to come and see the cheese being made and taste the cheese and experience that way of life, he was really able to add value just not to the milk, but to the cheese, but to the whole area in general. It was a declining area for farms. I think 20 years ago there was about 120 farms in that area, and they're now down to 2. So it's obviously something that's a real problem in that area. So having to diversify is key, and obviously very similar to Wales in that respect. A big part of the trip obviously is the networking and sociable side of it. By going away and getting a chance to get off farm with other farmers, you can share ideas, share problems, concerns, and also it motivates you when you get home to push on and do better things with your business. Overall, the trip was a great experience to get out of Wales and bring some hints and tips back. I thoroughly enjoyed it. I know everyone on the group really enjoyed it. I found the Agri Academy experience completely rewarding, and that really sort of topped it off with a great experience. So very thankful to be able to the opportunity to go to Spain and pull the information back, and a very worthwhile trip all round, really.